Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Larry McIntosh. I'll be your host for the next hour and every Saturday morning from 8 to 9. Thanks for tuning in. If you're involved in a school or daycare fundraiser in some way, I hope you've registered for the Farm to School Manitoba fundraiser. This fundraiser is open to all Manitoba schools and licensed daycares anywhere in Manitoba. And this is how the fundraiser works. Students sell bundles of Manitoba-grown vegetables to raise money for their school or daycare. Bundle A has carrots, cooking onions, and red potatoes and sells for $10. Bundle B has larger packs of carrots, red potatoes, and cooking onions, as well as green cabbage and parsnips, and it sells for $20. Each bundle comes with a reusable bag that is great for when you go grocery shopping. The outstanding thing about this fundraiser is that the school or daycare keeps half the selling price, a 50% profit, which is good for any fundraiser. Last year, this fundraiser raised over $400,000 for Manitoba schools and daycares, and that's what they kept, over $400,000. This year so far, we have 183 schools and daycares that have ordered, 344 schools and daycares that registered to participate, and the schools have already kept $230,000. This fundraiser runs until December 12th and is open to any school or daycare anywhere in Manitoba. If you're interested in getting more information on the Farm to School fundraiser or to register your school or daycare, please visit their website at MyToba.ca, or we have a link at our website at peakmarket.com. My guest this morning is Anders from Anders Magic. Good morning, Anders. How you doing?
Morning, Larry. How
Good.
you doing?
Oh, there's like too many Anders in there.
Well, that's
Anders from Anders Magic. Good morning, Anders.
Yeah. That's fundraiser. I'm glad you mentioned that. My daughter, she's 5. She's in kindergarten.
Oh, yeah?
And she just brought that back. And we were just saying how at least that's a fundraiser people can use. You know, sometimes you got to you're buying things that you're maybe not normally using or pushing them on people. But I mean, everyone eats their veggies, or they should.
They should, at least, absolutely. And people have said, we've all said students should exercise more, be on computers less, and then we tell them to go sell chocolates.
Yeah.
It's kind of inconsistent. And this is a great fundraiser because whether you're living close to Winnipeg or you're in Churchill or any community, our growers will either bring it by truck or train or fly it into some community. My favorite one that happened this week, I know the show is about you, but let's go ahead with this.
This is good.
We had a vegetable order for a community up north, which I cannot remember their name. Sorry about that. But we drove it to Thompson, flew it to this community. They picked it up in a truck, took it to the water taxi because it's on an island, and took it over there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, that one. I mean, it's hard to get fresh vegetables up there too. I mean, I've done some work up there, and it's just the price of milk's so expensive, everything's so expensive, so it's nice to get fresh veggies up there.
And this is a great fundraiser from that point of view. It's the same price for anywhere in the province. Our growers cover the cost.
It's a deal. And
of course, there's some areas of the province that have health issues. They don't get as many vegetables, or they're more expensive, and this is an opportunity for those people to participate. Is what I was trying to say. Anyway, Anders, how are you? How you been?
That wasn't an ad. I was interested in that. No, I'm good. Things are going on real well. I'm doing my thing, which, if people don't know, I'm a magician and a trade show presenter. So I work for different companies at trade shows.
So what are you first, a magician or a trade show presenter?
I think I'm a magician first.
Yeah.
I got started when I was young age, 5 years old, Fisher-Price magic set for Christmas. And, and everything I do, I always kind of have a little bit of magic because that's kind of my it makes me, it's like my security blanket. It's something I know well, and I'll put that in. Whether I'm speaking at an event or something, there's always going to be a bit of magic in it with some message. But I think that's kind of what sets it apart and makes me different.
I was a little disappointed you didn't wear your tie today, because that tie,
the magic tie,
the magic tie has always amused me.
It's become a running. It's a nice running gag in my show, and for those of you who've never seen it, my tie kind of floats up into the air, and it's very useful for a lot of. I try to use it for the non-obvious jokes, but yeah, you can tie it in, and it's
tie it in. Well,
I tied it in. That was innocent. That was sorry.
So you started as a magician? No, you weren't a magician. In magic,
Larry.
It's too early. Yeah. And magic is a very young age. Fisher-Price, do they still have those things in?
You know what? They only made them for so many years, and what was neat was when I was looking for a picture of it one time to put in a presentation to explain kind of my background, I found the picture online, and it was actually a picture that another magician had put on his site saying that's how he got started. And I actually gave him a quick email and kind of said, hey, I got the same one. We had the same backstory, which is same age, same gift, and and for Christmas too.
And I'm going to guess there's probably tens of thousands of those sold during that period.
Yeah, I suppose. Like, I'm not sure. I did run into a guy who was he was kind of a toy salesman back in
really?
the 80s.
Seriously.
And so he goes, "Oh, I remember those. Those were good." You know, and it's so, I don't know. So he would have sold those to toy stores or something like that.
But my point is, out of the tens of thousands that
Right.
got it, how many went on to make a career out of
I
it?
suppose, yeah.
Very
I mean,
few.
I guess so. I can.
You don't know for sure?
I don't have the numbers on that. I'll get back to you on
Well,
that.
we're going to have to take a break soon. You can look it up on
There you
Google
go,
or
yeah.
something. But so you always knew you wanted to get into magic. And
Yeah.
that's got to be a fairly tough thing to make a living out of, isn't it?
And I don't think I really knew what I was getting into, which is probably a good thing. But I did have, when I was in grade 9, there was a new class they kind of piloted. It was called Skills for Independent Living. And basically it was kind of learning about, how to write a check and all these things. But it was starting to get you into thinking about a job. It was kind of the idea. And so we had to research someone who had a job that we wanted. So I actually did a phone interview with Dean Gunnarsson,
Oh, really?
the escape artist. So, and he was great and real nice to me. But it kind of gave me a little bit of an idea what's going on. But bit by bit, I kind of built up to that. And at some point, I didn't really, I think, admit I wanted to be that because it was like running away to the circus. So I did my 4 years, got my physics degree at Brandon University. So I did have that kind of as a fallback position.
We'll be right back with Anders from Anders Magic after we take this break for your 680 CJOB weather update. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Food and Friends. Peak of the Market has a mobile recipe app that works on your smartphone or your iPad. It's available free through the Apple, Android, or BlackBerry World app stores or via peakmarket.com. If you haven't downloaded it yet, all you have to do is go to any of those sites and search for Peak Recipes. And here's a few of the features on our new recipe app. Over 4,000 recipes at your fingertips. No internet connection required. So once you've downloaded it, it's all right there. It doesn't take a lot of space, but you don't have to worry about being on the internet. Recipe search using any combination of keywords like potatoes or chicken, or ingredients and meal types. Measurements in both metric and imperial. You can rate your recipes that you've tried and add them to your favorite list. So if you like a recipe, you can give it 1 to 5 carrots or just 1 carrot if you don't like it. And you can add it to a favorite list so you don't have to look it up every time and put all your favorites in one spot. You can add the recipes to a shopping list with a checkoff feature that once you've bought the items. You can even add notes to the recipe. So one thing I always think is you have a recipe, but say you want to use margarine instead of butter or something. Well, this one you can put notes in there. You can even put Larry's favorite in there if you want. Add extra items to a shopping list. And my favorite is font resizing for the directions, so you can make them bigger if you want. And there's no in-app advertising. So once you get into the app, there's no ads. It's very clean, and we're very excited that it's out now. So please download it, give it a try. Let's be honest, if you don't like it, you can delete it easily, but we think you're going to like it. We're back with Anders from Anders Magic. So the app you're going to download later today?
Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah.
Did I mention that?
Sounds like a deal.
How far on could you go? Really?
Well, I think actually that would be convenient for. I don't know. Can it do this? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot.
On the
here.
air. Okay, good.
Okay. Can you put in the ingredients you have in your fridge?
You can.
And it'll tell you kind of what you can make.
Absolutely.
That's like meal ideas.
Yeah. So if you have, and we tested this feature a while ago, we put it out, I don't know, hot dogs, relish, sauerkraut or something, and we actually had 5 recipes that had all these bizarre ingredients that we picked out. So yeah, it'll show the recipes. Yeah,
nice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's what we call it, what's in your fridge. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, well, no, it seemed like a good thing to do.
So you're talking in the last segment about trade shows. Is that a lot of your business?
You know what? That has become over 50% of my business now. So, and just to kind of the way I started, I've worked for you doing trade shows for Peak of the Market, but it's basically putting the show in trade show, putting on something that's exciting that people want to see, but at the same time there's a message in there, there's a marketing message. So companies like it when you can get lots of people to their booth, and so I call it infotainment. So it's kind of information and entertainment combined. And I do a lot of that, mostly in the States, but I am going to be going to, in January, going to be going to Milan, Italy for a trade show. And I just booked one for in New York in January as well. So, so it's usually at these kind of destination places because they're bringing all these people in for the trade show, and then companies are looking for a way to differentiate themselves and stand out.
Shelley and I were just at a trade show, I guess 2 weeks ago, the Produce Marketing Association show. It was in Anaheim this year. And we didn't display at it, but this is what I'm telling you.
I had friends working that show.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's 1,095 booths, companies. So most booths are more than 10 by 10, and there was 22,830 people.
Yeah.
So how do you get those people at your booth versus the other person's booth? So you give them that edge to do that.
Yeah, well, I use money to incentivize people, and I do different things. But I think part of it is people want to be where it's happening, where it's at. And when you look from booth to booth, if they're all kind of the same, then everything kind of blends into the background. But if there's someone having some fun, being engaging, and there's also, if you raise the stakes, I do some kind of dangerous stuff, like I do a Russian roulette with staple guns and some different things that people. I always kind of want to create this like scenario where people are walking by and they look and they go, "What the heck's going on here?" And then they have to check it out, and hopefully they become engaged and they stick around. They hear the marketing message, and we scan their badge at the end. So that's kind of what I try to do is
and doing trade shows and visiting a lot of trade shows. That's so key, because I can tell you that the show we're just at, there was a couple of ladies that used to be in a men's magazine. We won't name it, but you can imagine who it was. And lots of people got their picture. Lots of guys got their picture taken with them, right?
Yeah.
And so I asked them, whose booth was it? And not one of them could tell me whose booth it was, because they didn't know anything other than they got a picture with a couple of girls, and that made no sense to me. So I've seen you do it. You've done it for us, obviously, but you tie the message in. In our case, you tied vegetables in. You told about
a carrot
storage.
Someone picked a card. We had put them in a bag, and we stabbed a carrot through the bag and found the card. Yeah. It's. I think if you don't tie in what is the attraction or what's happening, it can look like a desperate plea for attention. And I think that tying it in really makes it work, makes it worthwhile. Because booth babes, that's an ongoing debate. In the trade show industry is it works or does it, or and everyone likes to think it does, but again, is there that takeaway?
I don't think so personally. I'm not for it at all. Yeah. But that's me. There's others that disagree with it. Bigger companies than what we are. But to me, it's about the product. It's about the company. It's about what you want to get your message out. And the carrot stabbing through the card certainly is memorable. That was a lot of years ago. People still talk about that. We still hear about that at the trade show. Oh, you had that guy, and I'll give them your website, so hopefully you get some business out of it.
Perfect.
So how it's got to be hard for you to be creative for each trade show, to whether it's carrots or whether it's software or whatever the case may be.
I think what happens is the more I've done, the more I realize when it all comes down to it, companies are all kind of selling similar things. It's just how do we chunk down to that? And so a lot of times it's save money. It's about security or a peace of mind kind of thing, or is it about saving time? And a lot of companies in the business-to-business world, I mean, peak of the market aside, those don't exactly fall in line, but a lot of those, most companies do. And there is a lot of stuff I can reuse and reframe and utilize again. But sometimes, I get excited about new companies just because they have something unique, and I'm like, I love making those connections and making a tight script. And it's fun.
We'll be right back with Anders from Anders Magic after we take this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. We're back with Anders from Anders Magic. Anders, it's time for a recipe segment called Now We're Cooking. Are you ready?
Let's get cooking.
Let's get cooking.
Let's
okay.
Get started.
Now, you don't need to write this recipe down, as it's today's recipe of the day at peakmarket.com and in the Winnipeg Sun. And today, for the first time, starting today, it's also in the Winnipeg Free Press. So you can get it from a website, the Winnipeg Sun, or the Winnipeg Free Press, and that'll be in there every day in the Free Press with different recipes. Today's recipe is cheese-baked zucchini. Cheese-baked zucchini. You like zucchini?
I think with cheese, I would.
All right, here's what you need for the recipe. 4 medium zucchini, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 4 ounces of mozzarella cheese thinly sliced, 2 large tomatoes seeded and diced, and 2 teaspoons of fresh oregano or basil chopped up. Slice the zucchini lengthwise into 4 strips each, brush with oil and place on a cookie sheet. Bake in a preheated oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. Then remove the zucchini from the oven and arrange slices of cheese on top. Sprinkle with the diced tomatoes and oregano. I'm having trouble with that word. Return to the oven for 5 minutes or until the cheese melts. And this recipe serves 4. Again, this is today's recipe of the day at peakmarket.com and in the Winnipeg Sun and now in the Winnipeg Free Press. And all the recipes in the newspapers have all the measurements in both metric and imperial. So did you get all that recipe?
Could you read that back one more
No,
time?
I cannot.
Okay.
I stumbled the first time.
I'll look for it in the paper.
Okay, would you do that? That'd be fantastic. So what's your favorite vegetable?
What's my favorite vegetable? It's going to sound like I'm kissing up, but a carrot.
Carrot.
I think, because it's portable. You don't really need to do anything. You can eat it raw easily. You can't say that with a potato, really. I mean, I knew someone who liked it raw.
Some people do, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with Anders from Anders Magic after we take this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. Food and Friends Radio is now on TV. Each radio show is filmed and will be posted at MyToba.ca tomorrow. So if you want to see the TV version of this or previous radio shows, please visit MyToba.ca. Thanks to 680 CJOB's Nicole, who produces our show, and Chad, who operates the camera, as well as the teachers of the Broadcasting and Media Arts program at TechVoc High School. You can also listen to an audio podcast of Food and Friends at SoundCloud.com and the iTunes Store. So please just do a search for Food and Friends with Larry at MyToba.ca or SoundCloud.com or the iTunes Store, and all the shows will come up for your listening or viewing pleasure. It's very important for me to mention that Food and Friends is only available because of 680 CJOB and its advertisers. So please make sure you tune in to 680 CJOB or listen live at cjob.com. We're back with Anders from Anders Magic. So did you know we're going to be on TV as well?
I was guessing by the camera.
Oh, yeah.
But,
there you go.
It was a bit of a tip-off, but yeah.
So we're talking about trade show, but let's go back to your magic. You're saying
Sure.
50% of your business in the last half hour we're talking about is trade shows now, where you go
Yeah, over 50, yeah. That's
over
right.
50. And
yeah.
the other 50% is obviously...
Is entertainment. So it's just, I do a lot of, Christmas is coming in a couple months, so I do a lot of after-dinner, kind of entertainment. So if you have a banquet or a Christmas party or what have you, I'd come in. Usually I do a little bit of walk-around magic beforehand, which is kind of during the cocktail hour. It gets people to experience sort of intimate magic that's happening right in their hands, just inches away from them. And then it makes them kind of look forward to the show after dinner. And then so I do my 45 minutes to an hour show after dinner. And it's just a lot of laughs, a lot of comedy, some pickpocketing, steal some watches, give them back, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
And just really have a good time. And so that's kind of the entertainment side of things. So there's no message. It's just, there's a little bit of message, but it's just about, enjoying yourselves, forgetting your worries, and just pure distraction and entertainment that way.
So for the next couple months, or not quite a couple months to Christmas, are you booked up a lot for those type of things?
You know what? The Friday, Saturdays are pretty much all gone. I think I might have December 6th that still has kind of a tentative right now that I need to lock that up. And then weekday, sometimes I offer a discount for weekday shows. Just throw that out there. No, so then there'll be some other ones that fill in. So there's kind of like 3 or 4, main weekends that you can work every Christmas. And so if I'm working every Friday, Saturday on those, then I'm pretty happy as far as that season goes.
So if people are interested in looking at booking you or getting more information, I'm sure you have a website.
I do. Thanks for mentioning that. AndersMagic.com is my, that's the magic or the entertainment side of things. And if very few people have companies large enough, but if you're doing a trade show, tradeshowinfotainer.com is my trade show site. And there's actually a link off the Anders Magic site to that as well.
So 2 websites. You must be doing well.
I do. I have 2 more, but we won't talk about them.
That's enough websites.
Yeah, that's enough website talk.
So when you're doing magic, and I've often thought about this, and you've performed at some of our events in past, and some of them are smaller events where we've had people from out of town, and some of them are larger. But it's one thing when you're close up and doing magic, or it's in a smaller group. But when you're on a stage and there's 400 or 500 people, can people see the card tricks on it?
Well, you know what? I try to make it about the experience and the interaction and the relationship between the audience and the performer, more than whether or not if the person who picked the card reacts big, everyone knows. You know what I mean? And part of the way I've always looked at it too is it was always about the entertainment value as opposed to how tricky am I and how clever am I. That doesn't matter as much as did you have a good time, did you have a laugh, did you have an experience, and I think if the answer is yes to those questions at the end of the day, then I did my job, as opposed to, that whole, it might have been a 6 of diamonds, not a 7 of diamonds, that card. I just, so that's my thoughts. So, yeah.
And I would say that magic is not a big thing for me, But I've seen you perform, and it's a lot more that you do magic very well. But it's what you do around it, is what you were saying there.
Yeah, and I mean that's if you ever saw David Copperfield on TV and the whole smoke and wind in his hair, and they got these offstage fans that are blowing. I mean, I'm not. I knew from an early age that I wasn't the mysterious stranger kind of character, and so I've always kind of made it about having fun, joking around, and just having that interaction. And actually, I make a joke in the show that if it weren't for the people who help me on stage, I wouldn't really have much of a show, because I need someone to play off of and to create these situations that that arise. So,
Do you ever get somebody up there that doesn't want to be up there and doesn't want to cooperate?
sometimes, very rarely. I almost have like an ESP as far as who's going to be a good volunteer. That sometimes that's off a little bit, but for the most part, people at the end of the show always go, "Oh, you picked the perfect person for that," and so it's like, okay, good. So you can kind of, and when I do the magic before dinner, table to table or group to group, I often see who's fun, who's kind of gregarious, who'd be good on stage, as opposed to some of these people who are just kind of a stick in the mud. So,
But at some events, do the organizers ask you to pick on somebody?
yeah, and you got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
I have a custom comedy questionnaire that I send, and it kind of asks, what are the inside jokes? Who are some of the people? And sometimes they try to force scenarios or force these people on me, and I'm like, I got to see them first, because sometimes they think it's hilarious, and I look at them and I go, you know what? I don't think they're going to be what they're saying they're going to be, and I have to kind of veto some of that, just because, what they think is funny and will fly sometimes isn't as universal of a joke as they think, or something. So you kind of got to be a filter on that.
And you must feed off the crowd somewhat too. If they're laughing and they're going with you, that's
Sure.
got to encourage you.
Sure.
And
Yeah, no, that's
or the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. Crickets, and then you get well, yeah. If you kind of hit that the feeling of the room and just hit it perfect, then it's almost sometimes you can't do anything wrong. You just kind of, you're with them and they're with you, and it's just kind of you ride the wave. And then some nights, it's not as good, and you kind of got to adjust and try to make it work. Always having that constant feedback loop of doing something, getting the feedback. Did the audience like it? Do they want more of that, less of that, that sort of thing.
Is there one show that comes to mind that was like your all-time favorite?
My all-time favorite? I did have. I've had some shows where everything just fell in place so perfectly, and I can't go into specifics, but a callback in comedy is when something happens and you refer to it and it's funny again and again and again, where this one guy was just a character, and it kept cropping up to be able to poke fun at him and use him again and again, and at the end he did exactly what would be expected of him when he came back on stage to help me out with this finale, and it was just like perfect. So it was kind of like, you can't write that stuff, and sometimes it's just the stars align and the magic gods are on your side.
So you clearly enjoy what you do.
Sure. Oh yeah. No, that's part of, sometimes I think, what would I do if I couldn't do this? And it scares me, just because it's one of those things that I shouldn't say on radio, but I do it for free, but
That
it's
doesn't
nice to
pay
be
the
paid,
bills,
though.
though.
Yeah, exactly. But that sort of, that's, I think that's when you found that thing. Not everyone is lucky enough to find that thing that it doesn't feel like it's work.
We'll be right back with Anders from Anders Magic after we take this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. I hope you've had an opportunity to see Peak of the Market's new Sesame Street potato bags, which will be in your produce section. They are bright, they're colorful, and they feature some of your favorite characters: Elmo, Big Bird, Bert, Ernie, Grover, Oscar, and Abby. Along with the characters, you'll still see the Peak of the Market logo, so you're guaranteed it's growing right here in Manitoba. We're very pleased with our partner with Sesame Street on their Eat Biter program. I'd also encourage you to drive by Peak of the Market on 1200 King Edward Street if you're in Winnipeg. We have a huge banner. It's about 150 feet long, and the highest part, the tallest part, I guess, we have a big bird, which is 18 feet tall. So it's kind of neat to go there and check it out and get your picture taken with them. We're back with Anders from Anders Magic. Now, your daughter's 5?
Yeah, she's just turning 5. Yeah.
Just turning 5. So did she watch Sesame Street?
Yeah, she, Sesame Street's it's different from when I was a kid, so it's a little bit different.
It's in color now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she likes it, like all the different characters and the puppets. What I find interesting, because my son is 3,
Okay.
but that puppets interacting with real humans as opposed to a cartoon, there's something so magnetic about that and attractive to kids. They just, to see that like monster or see that character. I think that's kind of the part of the success of Sesame Street, and it's how it's been going on for such a long time.
So let me tell you a quick story, and I know I'm supposed to be talking to you, but at the Produce Marketing Association show we talked about earlier in Anaheim that were there a few weeks ago, we were displaying our Sesame Street bags with their peak logos on them, and we're quite proud of them, very colorful, as I said. And Sam Cass, who works at the White House, he reports to the First Lady on nutrition, child health, and all that type of thing. So we met him in the line where they're looking at our bags, and he took pictures and said, "I'm sending this back to the ranch." And of course, the ranch is, some farms call it a ranch in the States. I didn't think anything about it. We then found out 10 minutes later when he was on the panel that was speaking at that particular event that he was sending them back to Michelle Obama.
Wow.
Yeah, the First Lady.
That's cool.
Seen the picture of Peak of the Market bags?
I mean, it's funny that you haven't done, like putting characters that kids associate to and want, just like automatically see it, they want it, and doing it to something healthy.
But everybody likes Sesame Street. I'm not a kid anymore. I love Sesame Street.
No,
maybe a different character than your kids would, because Big Bird and Bert and Ernie have been around forever.
And I don't think that counts on anymore.
I haven't seen him in a long time.
Or Mumford the Magician was Abby Cadabby came in instead of Mumford the Magician, because I liked Mumford.
Yeah, you're probably a little offended by that. Eh?
Yeah. So
So back to magic. So you go out and you do trade shows. You're doing events, especially at Christmas. You were saying earlier. Do you do any public speaking as well? Or?
Yeah, I'm actually just before. It was yesterday actually that I was at the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers meeting. So I'm part of that group, and so that's kind of I'm trying to make a transition a little bit, not to leave magic behind, but just to realize that I have some skills, whether it's engaging with an audience and holding people's attention, that I can kind of transfer and put more different types of messaging, plugging in to do more speaking. So I do right now actually do a lot of trade show trainings for companies. I do have a training on mind mapping, which is just kind of a unique way of kind of note taking and storing information that I just am passionate about and I like. So I kind of like sharing that with people, and a few other talks that I do. So Hocus Focus, which is about holding people's attention and really holding people spellbound, literally. And so those are some of the talks. So I have kind of made that shift. There is magic in all of them, just to kind of make it exciting, make it accessible, and make it fun.
And being, as I said earlier, we go to a lot of trade shows. Most people, I would say most people, don't know how to act in a trade show booth. They're sitting in the back of the booth, or on their phone. It looks like you're interrupting them.
Sometimes they're sitting on their phone behind a table eating, and it's like, I didn't know you could break those many rules at once. That's very impressive.
Yeah. And when we do a trade show, we don't have chairs for that reason. We don't want people to sit down. We want to welcome people. We want to talk to people. That's what we're there for. We can sit down at our computers the rest of the time. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. And even some big companies that I've worked for, like names that you recognize, their booth staff were not doing anything right. And so then the next year I come back and I'll train them and try to whip them into shape so they can help. Because when I bring a crowd of people and I bring them into the booth and no one talks to them and they all ignore them, it's not really, what I'm doing is not valuable or effective. So that has to be a team effort.
So related to that, what's the most famous person you've ever met?
Famous person I've ever met. I guess to me, the most famous person I've ever met was Copperfield.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of a big deal.
Huge, eh?
Yeah. I got vanished by him at one of his shows when he first started doing this, vanishing 12 people from the audience kind of thing. And it was in Grand Forks, actually. And what was interesting was I'd read that, you vanish and you don't come back. Like, that was kind of the way they promoted it. And so I was with my buddy who came with me, and when I got picked, I gave him the car keys. I'm like, I'll see you at the hotel, I guess. But yeah, for me, that was a thrill, And I have a friend, Chris Funk, who's a local magician here in Winnipeg too. He was actually went to a magic convention in Las Vegas, and he went to Chris Kenner's barbecue, and Chris Kenner's kind of David Copperfield's right-hand man. Okay. And who was flipping burgers? None other than David Copperfield. So that was a pretty cool story from him. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like meeting an idol.
Exactly.
Really?
Exactly. I mean, that's, yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, there might be some famous hockey players I've met and different charity golf tournaments and stuff I've worked, but it doesn't kind of register as famous to me as Copperfield.
In the same way, yeah. And can you remember a show where things went horribly wrong? Is that...
I can tell you how much time we have. I actually have the worst one ever. I was 16 years old, and I was doing a fundraiser for Teens Against Drinking and Driving in my high school. I did a show the year before where I hung upside down from a straitjacket to raise money. And so this year I was going to go bigger and better. So I had lights, I had all the sound, and I figured out these illusions I was going to do, and I had this thing built. And I got out there, and first thing that happened, a lot of things happened. First thing that happened, I was floating this paper rose, and it was actually flash paper, which is a thing that just ignites and consumes itself. But I lit it, and it was floating a little too close to my face, and I burnt my hair, and like my eyelashes kind of singed together. And then later in the same show, I was cutting playing cards to show these razor blades were sharp, because I do this razor blade and thread, and you bring the razor blades out threaded. It's like this kind of swallowing trick kind of thing. And I was showing they were sharp, and the razor blade turned in the card, cut my thumb open. I started bleeding all over the stage, and I had to have an unplanned intermission. I had to bandage up my thumb, and then through the whole show, my thumb kept sticking to things because of the blood that was congealing. And anyways, I went home that night.
This is not breakfast talk.
No, yeah. No, sorry to everyone. But I went home that night, and I cried pretty hard after that show. That was like the worst show. But now it's just kind of like a real rite of passage, kind of, coming of age kind of magician horror story kind of thing that we've shared. Yeah.
We'll be right back with Anders from Anders Magic after we take this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. We're back with Anders from Anders Magic. This has been fun talking to you about all these things.
I have a great time, and I used to. I think the first time I was kind of like, oh, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Should I give you some? But I enjoy our conversations and just catching up and everything.
With the exception of the food, it's like we're having breakfast, having a conversation, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then we're not eating with our mouths full. So, it works out that way.
That's also true. So if anybody wants to find you, your main website is?
AndersMagic.com. ANDERSMAGIC.com.
So if you're interested in booking you for a magic show, although you're pretty booked for Christmas, but there's still some dates available.
Sure.
Or a trade show for those that are doing trade shows. That's great. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to Nicole, our show's producer, and Chad, our camera guy. Take care, and please, don't forget to eat your veggies.